Monday, December 9th, quick one-up video for you wonderful ladies and gentlemen. A little bit of a reversal today. I think traders just took the up open and used that to lock in some gains. Of course, we have the jobs number on Friday. Why not use an up open to do so? Also, a good opportunity to put on some protection given where the VIX is down here. Today we did see a VIX rally. It wasn't all that impressive. If we can get over the 20 MA at 1461, maybe we get a little bit more of bounce to the 200 MA at 1587, maybe even into the 17s or 18s. But I mean, this is still very rudimentary VIX. We've seen it recently up to the 23s, and that has been rejected. Kind of came back down, maybe even breached below range low a little bit, and maybe we're due for a little bit of a mean reversion here. With regard to the ES and the NQ, I've said before the bulls need to hold 6100. If not, there's liquidation break potential. The check back to the breakout would be 60.53 quarter to 60.4775. That zone really does need to hold. If not, we could be looking at a move back down closer to 6,000, 6,013. I'd feel much better if they can get it up over the intraday bounce high here at 60.75. Q's similar setup, although the Q's had an all-time high in the pre-market. That tells me this is more liquidation break variety. We also had positive breath today, so I'm not really taking all that much away from this. And you have Apple and Google actually up. So it wasn't exactly a slam down as the indices would have suggested. Bulls need to get over 21,567 quarter. Bears need to break it below 21,388 quarter and hold. If they can, I think there could be a check back to 21,237.75. We had underwater closes today. Those need to be repaired, and then the bulls really just need to hold on. As far as SPY goes, a potential secure high here. We're pulling back to the 2 times range here, so 604.35 to 603.39, which is the magenta trend line and the 10 MA. If that can't hold, maybe we even revisit 600, similar to that 6,000 situation in the ES. Q's basically got the 2 times range at 525.30 and pulling back a little bit. Makes some sense to me. I think should be responsive selling at fib extensions. We'll talk about Tesla in a moment. Check back to the breakout would be 515.58, and then the 20 MA is 510.94. The maximum allowable pullback that I would consider healthy is kind of far away. It's actually down at 501.35 to 503.52, but I'd be careful if we started losing that 515.58. You might want to just pull out and wait on the sidelines. With regard to Apple, I've been very bullish on this, and I've told you that there was a breakdown on the last earnings below range, and price wasn't comfortable there, and it went back up into range. It wasn't a head and shoulders pattern. That turned out to be correct. The next big upside targets here are 255.27 and then the 261s. Probably some selling at 250 just because it's that big round whole number. Google also a little bit of strength today, but needs to hold the 20 MA at 173.28. If it keeps rallying, it probably can get up into the 182s. Microsoft may take a little bit of a hit tomorrow because of the Oracle blow up. They need to hold 436.73. If they can't, we could make a move back down to the 430.82 to 426.97. Speaking of Oracle, nasty little reversal candle today in the after hours. It's down to 175. There's a small gap to fill from 11.5 to 171.78. My guess is that does fill. If there is a continued pullback, we could make it all the way down to the 155.82 eventually. I would feel better if we had an open that was higher than the after hours and was able to hold the 50 MA at 179.49, and then I think it would be one that fills the gap pretty quickly. Nvidia still acting a little bit weak. They seem to be having news cycles that aren't going their way, but we are holding the 50 MA, which is key. This also does have the potential for a head and shoulders with a neckline at 132.11. I'd feel better about this back up over 140.76 to 144.42, but so far it's kind of holding where it needs to with the 50 MA. Some of the stuff that was just up crazy town style was AppLovin, and then that got a bit of a smackdown today, if you could even call it that. We are below the 10 MA, so be a little bit careful there at 351.86. 20 MA is right below here at 327.48. I mean, a pullback to 288.25 should be buyable right or right out, because that's the 2 times range and where we had the initial stall out on the 11.8 range. Bitcoin, still seeing some 100,000 plus sellers, because why not? Imagine being on a client call and Bitcoin is back down to 74,000 and them saying, okay, great, why didn't you lock in 100K? Trust me, that's what these calls are like. I think it needs to hold the 20 MA here at 95,318. If not, we could pull back and retest the 89,140. 50 MA is a country mile away, but it would be a buy the dip, in my opinion, if we got down there at 78,974 and rising. TLT, bit of a pullback, but overall rates have been kind of chillaxing. It needs to hold the 50 MA, which is currently 93.01. Those 93s are a volume distribution, so that does need to hold. Dollar not really giving us all that much help today, but it is bouncing. We know that anything over 106.126 and then 106.517 is problematic. We're right on the 106.126 area. It stalled at the 20 and 10 MA, and we are still a little bit below the trend line. I think the bulls do have some support, dollar bulls that is, at 105.01 to 104.636, which lines up with the 50 MA, and that's also a good downside target if you're playing it short. Gold hasn't exactly been the knight in shining armor, although it did have a nice move today back up to the 50 MA. Bulls will need to get up over the 50 MA at 245.36. If they can do that, I think there could be a move up to 250.39 and maybe even a gap fill to 253.40. There's still a potential here for a double tap head and shoulders, but if we're above the 50 MA, it's obviously not in play. With regard to Tesla, my 2 times range expectation was 403.20. It was achieved, and there was a pretty decent back off. I think if we have a lower high tomorrow and we lose today's low of day at 378.01, we probably check back to 358.64 to 346.47. Basically the 11.11 breakout, 10 MA and then 20 MA respectively. That area will need to hold. If not, I mean, I guess there's some more support if we were to check back to the top side of the green channel. If it took a couple days to get down there, it'd be 346.47, and that's probably a buy considering we're coming from a high on this move. It's not an all-time high, so maybe go a little bit smaller size, but it does seem to me Tesla is still bullish. Maybe we're in the move for the 484.90 to 500 level. It does need a little consolidation here, and I know there must be some 400 sellers. That's why we have orders peppered out. Meta also seeing a little bit of a reversal, but not all that much. Bit of a lower high today. I think if we get below 608.53 and then today's low of day at 606.17, we could pull back to that 602 to 600 level, but that zone really does need to hold, or else we could have another retest of the 50 MA at 580.53. Just generally, I think this is going to trade with how the market wins below. Generally speaking, I still like using up opens to trim profits into. VIX is still low to put on hedges. It may have had a little bit of a bounce today, but nothing that would keep me from buying some put protection. If you want, you could sell some upside calls to fund those put protection. I also like doing put spreads or ratios to play for downside moves. If you are doing ratios, be very mindful of your strike and size, because we are at a low VIX, and if price comes down hard and fast, you'll not only have price going against you, you'll have volatility going against you. That's a very hard dynamic to deal with if it starts happening fast. And we know VIX tends to go up faster than it comes down. There may be a bit of a buyer strike later in the week. I do think that there will be a little bit of this rotation back and forth, at least until Wednesday. But I do think that there could be a little bit of a buyer strike later in the week. What I usually like to do is take the Fed day range, and in this instance, the job day range on Friday. Anything above it is bullish, anything below it is bearish, inside is neutral, and if you want to play intra-candle, use the VWAP as your pass, don't pass line. Like and follow for more.